Lee Carsley's reign as England manager has ended with an emphatic victory over Ireland at Wembley and sees them win League B, Group 2. On today's show, we'll be looking at what England have learnt from Carsley's 6 games in charge, what questions remain for Thomas Tuchel as he gets ready to take over. So then, lads, what did you make of England's performance? I think if ever there was a game of two halves, it was this one.
Yeah, first half was a hard watch. I was nodding. It was it wasn't great. It was tough to watch. I thought it was slow. Yeah, no pace of the game, no energy. Crowd were flat. I thought, it was really tough. But then the sending off second half changed everything. And once they scored the penalty, then it was just a matter of how many they were going to get.
Yeah, it's often hard in these games. Once you get the first goal, life becomes a lot easier, doesn't it? With teams that just play everybody behind the ball. And England couldn't find a way in the first half, Micah.
No, in the first half, I thought it was quite frustrating to watch. Harry Kane was doing what Harry Kane does, comes really deep, and then there was times where England tried to break with Madueke and Gordon, and then Kane was just too far behind to sort of find anyone in the centre of the pitch. That was quite frustrating, but we've talked about that so many times before. And then second half, like Alan said, I've got to give Ireland a little bit of credit in the first half, though. The way they set up in their formation, they all knew the jobs. I thought the distances were really good. Organisation, and there was no shot in the first half. So if you're coming away from that defensively from Ireland, you've done the job. Second half, it was the sending off killed the game really. But I did think Jude Bellingham was exceptional. I
was going to say the same thing.
I just think even if he doesn't play a clever pass, he just finds a way to get on the ball, whether it's driving on it, whether it's getting on it in tight areas, whether it's he's pressing, whether when Harry Kane comes really deep, he's the one who goes and tries to go in behind. I just think he's I won't say back to his best, but he's got his confidence back, I think, and he's playing with a real swagger. The Bellingham that we know and love. I just thought he was the best player on the pitch by far.
I thought exactly the same thing.
I wouldn't disagree with any of that, what you said. We all go on about how good England were second half and how Bellingham was. What about Ireland, Republic of Ireland? It's like, where are they? I mean, in terms of, when you played, guys, you could see, Ray Houghton and Cascarino and so many decent players in the team.
Liam Brady, Kevin Sheedy, Paul McGrath. The list goes on.
Then Roy Keane, Robbie Keane, all those players. And now you look at where they are now, and they're a shadow of what they were, weren't they, years ago?
Yeah, well, they just haven't produced the players, aren't they? In a small country like Ireland, you need a bit of luck, I suppose. Don't usually get a lot of players at the quality players at the right time, and they haven't got that at the moment, which is a shame, obviously, because as you said, in certainly in my era, they were always a tough nut to crack and had lots of seriously good footballers. But I suppose that's how it goes. It goes in cycles, doesn't it, for countries with relatively small populations?
I suppose also it's the way football is, with that clubs can buy so many players now, and therefore then youngsters are not getting maybe as many chances as they were many years ago, I guess.
It's not helped that Ireland pinched Jack Grealish and Declan Rice, though, is it? They played for Ireland at youth ages. I mean, you take them two players out of the team, it's a different team. I thought they had determination, work ethic, all the things, but I think they're just lacking in real quality.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, as you both made the point, that the scales of the game tipped in England's favour when they got the red card.
How long did it take you to think of that? How long
you know how long it took me, because I put it on the group chat in about 12 seconds after it happened. I want to come back to Bellingham, actually, Micah, because I think, the last 2 games, I've been so impressed. He's everywhere as well, isn't he? He covers so much yardage. You see him, back in midfield, driving with the ball. You see him spraying passes around. He's got his little tricks, hasn't he? And he's brilliant in possession. And then you see him turn up in the box on numerous occasions. He's got a real propensity to cover pretty much every yard of turf and great energy. I mean, obviously he struggled at the start of this season following the Euros with an injury, and it's taken him a bit of time to get back to his best. But what a footballer! I mean, what a footballer!
I think just from our opinion, we all said during the Euros we'd like to see him a little bit deeper. I actually don't think it matters where he plays. I think he's one of those players. If you tell him to hold, he can hold and arrive in the box late. You can tell him to play number 10 and press as a second striker and really commit the team going forward on that press. I just think everything about it, his work ethic though as well. When you look at top players and you always look at the attributes, okay, he's skillful, he can see a pass. I think his pass for Howard Bellis goal was extraordinary.
Oh, beautiful.
But just the work rate, you see him 80, 85 minutes stretching his calves because he's putting so much effort in. And yeah, I think he's a real star of this team. And I think he's
I think also, Micah, when there's so much talk about other players sort of pulling out with injuries, then he's been available, made himself available. And he's performed really well in both the games. So, yeah, he's a super talent. He's an incredible talent.
He really is. Great to see 4 debutant goals. 4 players scoring on for the first time for England in one game. I can't imagine that's probably happened before.
No, yeah, it's great.
Although maybe it happened in the first ever England international when no one had ever played, and then perhaps they won 4-0 and there were 4 different scorers. I don't know. But it was, it was good to see. But the game really opened up when it went down to 10 men. Having said that, it was obviously one of the reasons he went off was because he fouled Bellingham for the penalty, which another goal for Harry Kane, keeps notching them. And Kane's ball as well to Bellingham for that particular penalty decision was also a fabulous pass. He's got 2 great feet, Harry Kane. I mean, he strikes it so sweetly with both left and right foot.
His goal scoring record is just phenomenal wherever it is now, whether that's England or whatever. It's like, I mean, if he carries on for the next couple of years, then is it a record that may never be caught, the goal scoring record? I
think it's possible. The only thing I would say is that because of the way that internationals have changed, certainly since probably our day, Alan, when you didn't get hardly any relatively comfortable games.
Yeah.
You play a lot of, with all due respect, inferior opposition these days. We've seen the breakup of the old Soviet Union, so you've got a lot of countries there. The same in the Balkans, that's broken up into different countries. You've got teams like San Marino these days and Liechtenstein, lots of really tiny, well, not even countries, perhaps territories, some of them. Gibraltar, for example. So you're going to play a lot more easier games. And I think that's why we're seeing pretty much every international goal scoring record now being broken. Giroud has beaten Thierry Henry, for example. Lukaku for Belgium has scored, a serious amount of goals. So I think that aspect of it has changed. Ronaldo's scored well over 100. Messi's got, ridiculous amounts as well, because I think, not when you get to the finals themselves, because that's still equally as tough as it's always been, but certainly the qualifying and perhaps some of the friendlies now. I remember I think the easiest game we had, because perhaps they weren't that strong at the time, generally was someone like maybe Turkey or Czech Republic, who are, pretty decent nations. Whereas now, I think that has altered. But it doesn't take anything away from the fact that Harry Kane is our, highest and most wonderful goal scorer, and he's absolutely superb finisher.
If I could just pick, and I don't want to pick a fault, because I feel as though his goal scoring record is remarkable, and you've mentioned it all there. But just on the press and on transition, England are a different team the way he wants to play. And there was times in the first half where, like I mentioned before, England were on the attack and he's still a little bit deeper. When they press, is not as aggressive as Bellingham. Bellingham's really tired in the game, I thought, because he was doing a lot of Kane's running. So it's going to be interesting going forward how Tuchel gets him in the side where obviously he's going to score loads of goals. But I think the game now, the way it's been played with that high energy and that intensity, sometimes he can go missing within games, you know. And I just, from the last game against Greece, it was really high tempo. The team was a lot higher. This time, he's still got the ridiculous quality to make them passes, and he can unlock a door time after time. But just sometimes when we need to raise the energy as a team, he's just lost that yard of pace.
Is that a dilemma possibly for Tuchel going ahead? I mean, it's such a difficult one, isn't he? Because he is so good, so reliable, certainly in front of goal. But he hasn't got that kind of zip to his game and in his movement. He's never been his greatest strength anyway, his speed. But it's difficult for the coach if he wants to play. If a coach wants to play in a certain way. And we saw it in the Euros, didn't we? Talked about it many times in the Euros, that we know what Kane gives us, but it's also perhaps sometimes what he can't give you.
No, that's right. I mean, I don't think it'll be a good problem for the manager, exactly. Because on one hand you've got one of the greatest goal scorers, and on the other hand you've got someone who he knows that can press in Watkins and can also score goals now at international level. So I don't think that's a bad problem. And Tuchel knows Harry as good as anyone, having worked with him. But I think Harry will probably have to accept in the coming years that he may not be an automatic starter in every game. It might be specific games that he's in or out, and someone else will come in and play. And that's probably what you have to get used to as the years go by. And that might be what the manager and Harry has to do or accept.
Yeah, of the relatively inexperienced players that perform, perhaps over the two games, but particularly the game we've just watched, who caught your eye, Micah?
Certainly Curtis Jones in the first game against Greece.
Yeah.
I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch. I like Madueke. I like the fact that he's always willing to take on his defender, whether he's going inside or outside. Gordon, we was talking about Gordon not playing in the Euros, getting limited minutes. It's just, I think for the new manager coming in now, it's good to see he's got all these players playing pretty well, and they've all got something different. And I think it's sometimes when you put on the England shirt, players sort of play within themselves. But I feel like this new crop and this new the new mindset is probably installed from the manager Carsley, giving these fresh players a chance, that they're just going out there and playing with confidence and belief. So it's more of a collective more than just one player. It's this new talent that's coming through that are able to transform their ability from week in, week out, what we see in the Premier League, to now international football. That's the most exciting thing for me.
What about the Newcastle boys, Alan? 3 of them in the starting lineup.
Yeah, but I thought they did really well. I mean, Lewis Hall came on in the Greece game and then had a start tonight, as did Livramento and Gordon. So, yeah, good night for Newcastle. Can anyone name the last time when 3 Newcastle players started an England game?
Is it an answer you've got?
Yes.
Well, it must probably your time. You, Les, did you play up front with Les Ferdinand?
No, it was 97, I think it was, against Georgia. Me, Rob Lee, and David Batty.
Of course.
Batty,
of course.
Yes.
So yeah, I thought the three boys did well for England tonight. Newcastle boys, yeah.
I'm discussing England's comfortable victory in the end against the Republic of Ireland at Wembley. 5 goals. I don't know about you, but I particularly enjoyed the Jared Bowen one, coming straight on. And his first touch, bosh, and a nicely worked move. And I think the coaches enjoyed it on the sidelines.
So they should. It's what you want, isn't it? As a coach or a manager, when you make a change to have an immediate impact. So he certainly made that.
Yeah, he's a player who plays really well for West Ham week in, week out, isn't he, Bowen? And you just think, is he going to lift it to international level? And getting that goal for him will do massive for his confidence now going forward. But they've just got so many good players in that position, Madueke and Saka and Foden, Palmer. It's difficult for him, isn't it?
I think it's a good sign for the manager, because he's made a couple of really big calls. I mean, he made some big calls in the Greece game at home, which obviously didn't pay off, and understandably got a little bit of criticism when the result went against England. But he also made a couple of big calls in the Greece game away, i.e. leaving Harry Kane out. I know he sort of fudged around it and saying, it was for whatever reason, but ultimately left him out and brought someone else in. And it worked for him. That decision clearly worked. And when he's bringing subs on tonight, as he did, so when it works again, for it, I think it's certainly a good reflection on him, and he can, without doubt, walk away, I think, with his head held really high in what he's done, what he's given England in the 6 games he's had.
Totally agree. I think take the conversation on to Lee Carsely. I've quite enjoyed his football. I think he's been imaginative. He's tried different things. As you said, Alan, he's not been afraid to make big calls. He hasn't done himself any harm going into the future, whatever that future may be. I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if a Premier League club came calling at some point in the near future, because he's clearly got something, hasn't he? You can tell that he's got the trust of the players, and he won the Euros with the under-21s. He's given 8 players their debuts, which is a nice thing to be able to do in such a short tenure. I think that imaginative lineup that he played against Greece was probably half because he knew that Tuchel was going to come in. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he thought, well, let's have a look. Let's see what it looks like. I got no problems with that. So all in all, I think he's done a really good job. And obviously, a lot of the players missing, big players. I know we're in this kind of Group B stage where you're not playing against top opposition, so it's difficult to judge against that kind of top teams. But having said all that, was it 5 wins out of 6? Plenty of goals and some interesting football.
Yeah, I would agree. I just wanted to ask Al, obviously you had Newcastle for that short period of time. How easy is it to get your message across to how you want to play? Because I think he's done really well in terms of, apart from the Greece game at home, in getting his message across, his ideas, the way he wants to play, the intensity. You've seen all of these positive things already, and he's only had to get the team for 6 games.
Yeah, I think he had the success, didn't he? As Gaz said, with the under-21s, and he knew a lot of the players that he was going in to work with. So a lot of them sort of knew him, knew what he was about, knew what system and how he operates. But I think also what's been a positive is that even tonight, it was like there were people saying about how Bellis in there, about what does he deserve to be in there. Well, it's a little nod to him to say thank you for what you did for me for the under-21s. I mean, and giving him his debut and coming on and scoring and everything else. And so clearly, I think for large parts of the squad before he even went in there, he had the respect of them, which is a positive sign anyway. So I think he's done a really, really good job, and I'm with you. I mean, he'll obviously go back to the under-21s, but how long for? Because after what he's done, what he's shown, not only now with the full squad, but of course with the under-21s, I think it'll only be a matter of time before he goes in and gets a big job somewhere.
I totally agree. And Micah, don't think for a minute I didn't see that quick nip of something. I mean, you did it very quickly.
Honest to God. I've had too much time off. I'm enjoying it too much.
Yeah, it's nice to get a weekend. Nice to get a weekend off. I better get used to it. It's all coming. Let's talk about Thomas Tuchel. He comes in. I mean, he's certainly got a decent squad to work with. He'll have the same problems that the previous, not just Lee Carsely, but Gareth Southgate as well had, in the sense that it's a lovely problem to have, but so many talented individuals and you can't fit them all in, and can you keep them all happy and rotate and this sort of thing? And how do you think he'll approach it?
It was interesting reading Harry Kane's quotes. I think it was either yesterday or this morning before the game, that him saying that he won't be bothered if he upsets players, and he tells it how it is, and I think, fine, that's what you have to be, and if that gets him the success that he wants, so be it. And I don't think it'll be a problem for him, because I don't think he'll care if he upsets any big names. Yeah,
I agree with Alan. I think tactically looking at it, at times he's played sort of a 3-4-2-1, and it's how he gets the players into that formation if he wants to go with that formation. He's got some real big issues to sort in terms of personnel. I just think if you look at what Cole Palmer's doing week in, week out for Chelsea, he's got to play. Jude Bellingham has to play, what he gives the team. Harry Kane, we'd all say he probably needs to play because of what he can give, his goal-scoring record, how he can link up. But then you've got players sort of like Watkins, itching, Saka. It's difficult. And I think what we didn't give Southgate enough credit for at the time was having all these wonderful players and trying to fit them in, because whoever he played, someone's going to moan, why are they not playing? And it's just about getting that balance right. I think he's got to go with the best balance for the team rather than just trying to get the individual brilliance in. And if we can work off that basis, we can be successful, because we've seen now all these players can play at the highest level. It's just now getting that one step further.
I don't think that's an issue for him. I think because of his record, because of what he's won, he's already walking in with that on his shoulder. So for him then to leave a big player out, I don't think that's an issue at all. I mean, I don't think it's a big problem. It's never a big problem when you've got so many wonderful players. And then he's walking into an incredible dressing room with some great players. But he's also a great manager who's won most things, So with that backup, he just goes with it and does what he wants. And if the players don't like it, ultimately, you're going to be judged on results. If the players don't like it, when he's getting results, then he won't take them with him. And I think that's the way he operates.
Has he dealt with a media like ours though? that is the difference. I mean, the England job over the last how many years has been a cursed job, hasn't it? And that's why we give Southgate so much credit, because he brought the togetherness, he brought the harmony, he got to 2 finals. Okay, he couldn't get over the line, but he managed to bring that. I think it's just the media, if they do start to turn how he deals with that. And I think he's strong enough to deal with it. I think he's experienced to deal with it, but it's just, if a couple of top players are left out, because what was happening in the Euros, like stuff was getting leaked left, right and centre, wasn't it? And there was a different story about someone not being happy or Bellingham being big time or whatever it may be. It's just putting a lid on all that sort of stuff. This is a team I'm going to pick. Everyone's going to be used in a way which is going to be beneficial for the team, but this is my starting 11, and if you don't like it, deal with it.
Don't think it's any different in other countries. In major football countries, the media and the press, they're very demanding on the football side of things. You imagine how the Italian press was during the summer after their kind of abject performance, and France struggling to play any kind of football in the Euros. We're all the same. We do it ourselves, don't we? We've been critical at times. We just have to give honest opinions as long as you're fair. And I think, give your honest view. I think that's perfectly acceptable. The only difference I would say to our media and other medias is in Italy or Spain or France, they don't really go after your personal life a little bit like, and they don't do it here quite as badly as they used to, thankfully. But there is always that kind of element that is hanging over anybody that plays at the top level in this country, and not just in football, but in sport or music or anything. If you're famous, they kind of go for you a little bit. But I think that's changed to a degree. There's the other thing as well, isn't it? Because you've got so many good players, he's going to have to leave them out. And there's always that tendency, isn't there, to focus on the player that's left out rather than the players that are on the pitch. You know, you go, oh, why is Phil Foden not playing? Because there'll always be an element of, you know, fans that think he should be. But it's a great problem for any incumbent to have, isn't it? It really is.
We know he's here for 18 months. He's here for one thing. He's here to win the World Cup. That's his job. So
easy.
He doesn't have to worry. He doesn't have, well, yeah, not easy, but he doesn't have to worry about what players are thinking or saying about him. He won't care. He knows what his job is. He's in here for that amount of time, and he's in here for one reason, and one reason only.
Go on, say it. To win
the World Cup.
And on that note, I think we should finish. Doesn't get any better than that. It's been a while. It's been a while, hasn't it, since we did? So I think we're a bit overdue. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Anyway, that's it from The Rest is Football for this episode. We'll be back on Wednesday with our question and answer episode. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.